Mandy Sellars has a condition so rare that doctors have no idea what has caused her lower limbs to grow to more than 15 stone in weight.
So it is very lonely when you have some kind of condition that you feel nobody else has in the world.
Amazingly, at the age of 33, Mandy's lower limbs are still growing. And now she is faced with a huge dilemma. Should she have a double amputation?
I wonder if I have my legs off now, would it be a good thing because it has better health implications?
But Mandy's in a catch-22 situation. A double amputation would remove more than half of her body mass, and the surgery could prove fatal.
Amputation comes at the potential cost of wound infection and potentially death.
But if she doesn't have an amputation, her giant legs may kill her.
With all the weight that she's having to carry around, it might just be too much for her heart.
Can I have somebody's help, please? I can't get in.
In a race against time, Mandy's on a journey to discover more about her unique condition and to decide whether a double amputation may threaten her life or save it. Nestling at the foot of the Pennine Hills in the north of England is the former mill town of Accrington. In this small community lives 33-year-old Mandy Sellars.
Mandy is very unique. Mandy's a one-off. Life's hard for her, it always has been, but she's done the best she can.
She's determined in everything she does, and she likes to get forward.
Mandy really is, she really is an extraordinary person.
What makes Mandy so extraordinary is that her legs alone weigh 15 stone. That's 5 stone more than the total body weight of most British women. And even the most mundane tasks require superhuman effort.
I really don't know what it is that makes me cope and makes me get through the day. I just do. It's just some kind of strength of character that I've got, luckily.
Uniquely, Mandy was born with massive lower limbs, and doctors have been astonished their growth has continued.
My legs are still growing. I mean, particularly the left leg, the left knee and up towards the thigh area. That's got considerably bigger.
At 36 inches, Mandy's left thigh measures more than the average waist, and her feet are approximately 6 times larger than normal. She keeps her left foot covered, as it's so malformed it faces backwards.
I really don't like anybody seeing my left foot. It's not something unless I have to show a doctor that I particularly, want to go around showing everybody. I don't like it myself.
Despite the extraordinary appearance of Mandy's unique lower limbs, remarkably, doctors have never been able to give her a diagnosis. The condition that resembles Mandy's symptoms most closely is Proteus syndrome, the most famous case being the elephant man Joseph Merrick.
Proteus syndrome falls into a group of what we call overgrowth syndromes. The first thing to say about Proteus syndrome is it's extremely rare. Going on the current diagnostic criteria, there's probably about 100 cases in the world.
However, the outward signs of Mandy's condition are different. She was born with abnormally large lower limbs, whereas with Proteus, overgrowth occurs in later infancy. Furthermore, the soles of Mandy's feet are smooth, but in Proteus syndrome, thickening tissue under the skin causes deep grooves. Despite living with an undiagnosed, increasingly debilitating condition, Mandy is fiercely independent and lives on her own.
If I want to do something, then I will try my best to do it, even if physically, it's going to take longer than it would take maybe the average person.
And that includes driving. Just getting into the car with her enormous legs and feet is a challenge in itself.
I do love to drive simply because it's a freedom, it's my kind of independence and way of living an independent life that I want to live. I don't think people have a clue that I have a disability when I'm driving.
Mandy is not the sort of person who's just going to sit at home and waste her life away. She's got involved in some voluntary work with the RSPCA, which she's really enjoying. She's doing something useful there.
Mandy can only stand for a maximum of 10 minutes. So when she's away from home, she relies on a wheelchair.
I've got it, I think.
But getting into the chair is a mammoth task.
Oh, flipping heck. Working does kind of give you another purpose in life, because whether it's paid work or voluntary work, which, you know, is what I'm doing, you know, it gives you a reason to wake up in the morning thinking, oh, today is going to be different.
But any physical activity, such as working, could be having a detrimental effect on her health.
If you have an overgrowth of tissues, as Mandy does with her legs, that means that the heart needs to pump a lot more blood around the circulation, and so therefore you are essentially putting a strain on the heart. Now, if she requires to do any kind of physical activity, then you're placing an additional burden on the heart. So this increased burden could ultimately cause kind of burning out of the muscle of the heart.
Mandy's independent lifestyle is also in jeopardy. In the last 3 years, her lower limbs have undergone a continuous growth spurt. She knows that it's only a matter of time before she can no longer walk at all. Mandy's now forced to consider a drastic, irreversible decision: a double amputation of her legs, in the hope that with prosthetics, she may walk again.
I wonder if I have my legs off now, would it be a good thing, because I might be able to walk better? You know, and obviously not carrying so much weight around has better health implications.
In a race against time, Mandy's travelling to America to meet leading experts in amputation and prosthetics to see whether removing her gigantic legs will not only change her life, but potentially save it too. Mandy Sellars' legs and feet have grown to gigantic proportions. And yet amazingly, for more than 3 decades, doctors have been unable to give her and her family a diagnosis of her extraordinary condition.
We've always been in the dark. I mean, even now, I don't think they really particularly know exactly what is wrong.
It is very lonely when you have some kind of condition that you feel nobody else has in the world. You know, I'm like desperate to kind of want to belong somewhere into kind of a group of people that have something similar and knows what it feels like to live like this.
33 years ago, when parents Rodney and June were expecting Mandy, they had no warning there was anything wrong with their baby. But from the moment she was born, she looked different.
Well, my reaction were when I saw her, I thought, blooming heck, like, you know, what is this? I mean, and I'm the father of Mandy, with big enlarged feet and all the rest of it, like, and you think, oh, how sad.
I mean, when they're expecting a child, you expect them to be like a normal child. But when she was born and she was so small, she's not like any other child. You can see your legs are bigger there now.
I said, because there's like nothing in their family, is there, that would indicate that something like that would actually happen?
No, there isn't, no. There's nothing on your dad's side, as I know of.
Mm.
Mandy's doctors had never seen another child born with such oversized lower limbs, and they could offer no diagnosis. Instead, they warned Mandy's parents that the prognosis looked bleak.
They actually more or less said that they didn't expect Mandy to live. So, I mean, and well, obviously that's heartbreaking then, like, you know. And obviously for the wife, I mean, like, she was more or less saying, I've let you down. I said, you haven't let no one down.
But Mandy was a fighter, and when she was a toddler, she amazed doctors who thought her huge legs and deformed feet would prevent her from ever walking.
How she used to get around, she used to run around. I mean, you used to look at her and you think, how the blooming heck is she doing that, like? But she just did it.
My bedroom was 2 floors up, and I can still remember to this day kind of running down the stairs. You know, I could ride my bike, and I just think, how on earth did I do that, you know?
To Mandy and her parents, she was just like any other little girl. So when she was 7, it came as a devastating blow to hear her doctor's shocking recommendation.
They actually more or less said, well, I think that the best thing for Mandy would be to have her legs taken off. The wife, she broke down crying and all the rest of it. And I just said, well, you know, what would happen if we did that? He said, well, she would more than likely die. I said, well, there is your answer. No.
Yeah, because when I was 7, I mean, I could like run around, couldn't I? And all
Yeah,
sorts.
you can do everything a normal child could do.
It just seems silly.
But Mandy's colossal lower limbs were seen by others as a hindrance, and it was decided that she should attend a special school for children with physical disabilities.
I think myself and my friends have always kind of described the school as a bit like little family, you know, because everybody at that school had some kind of difficulty, you know, physically. So it was nice to kind of, you know, be around children that I could have fun with, but also, you know, we appreciated the fact that we all had our limitations.
Today, Mandy's returning to the school she attended for children with disabilities. It was here that she developed the guts and determination to overcome the daily struggle of living with her hugely oversized legs.
The way I look at it, if I don't make the effort like today to come out, I don't have a life. I'm not going to let what's happened to me spoil doing anything. Why should I? I'm not going to spend my life sat in my flat doing not much with my life. You know, my life is too important to me, you know, to just waste it away and then get to the end of the day and you just think, well, what did I do? Nothing.
15 years ago, as a schoolgirl, Mandy had been happily running around and playing football in this school field. But today, she's finding it a huge struggle just to get herself out of the car. And she's forced to confront how her mobility has declined drastically since her school days.
It's quite emotional, really. I've got quite a lump in my throat. It's weird. I think probably because if I look back, being at school was probably the best times of my life in terms of having my mobility. Obviously, you know, comparing then till now, you know, my mobility is totally different, you know, so it does bring a lump to my throat just because how different life is now.
Mandy has come back to see her former teacher, Mrs. Wilkinson. She was instrumental in making Mandy the confident person she is today.
How are you?
I'm really well. How are you?
You look wonderful.
Mrs. Wilkinson saw that Mandy had academic potential and arranged for her to go to a mainstream school to study part-time.
I set it up, but I mean, it was you. You did it, and you got over your initial trepidation, and I thought you were tremendously brave.
It was quite scary, but I'm glad that I did that because that kind of spurred me and pushed me on in the rest of my life to be able to go to like university and stuff like that. Yeah.
And it couldn't have been easy. It couldn't have been easy.
We all know what kids are like sometimes, you know. I mean, they're quite boisterous, get a gang together and they just have to like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, what the heck's that? So yeah, they did look.
And of course, and the nice thing is that sitting at a desk,
Yeah.
quite normal.
As maybe as crazy as it sounds, that was a good thing that happened at that time because that kind of prepared me for going out into the real world, knowing that that was going to happen every single day of my life after that.
They were good years, weren't they?
At 19, Mandy left home and moved to a flat on her own. She was in control, able to walk, and coped well without crutches or a wheelchair. Mandy's legs, it would appear, would not stop her living a full life when at 25 she graduated with a degree in psychology. But when Mandy fell ill and was rushed to hospital, life would never be the same again.
In 2005, she was in hospital, you know, she was in 5 months, well, she almost died because everything were failing, like, you know.
The doctors weren't really sure what was wrong with her. She had some kind of infection in her blood and she was really, really ill. And they tried a number of antibiotics and so on, and it took her a long time to get better.
I couldn't move. I was flat on my back for like 4 or 5 months. I just could not move. So because of that, all my muscles had kind of wasted, so I had to learn to walk yet again. When I came out of hospital, and I just couldn't do anything for myself. I couldn't walk properly, I couldn't get to the bathroom properly, couldn't dress myself, couldn't go to the kitchen to feed myself or get myself a drink, put my shoes on, do anything.
It took Mandy 7 months to learn to walk again. Now she has to rely on crutches.
Getting about, walking around is exhausting. I mean, I can't walk far. I couldn't really tell you how far I can walk, but it isn't far at all.
Another reason why Mandy is not as mobile is because in the last 3 years her legs have dramatically increased in size, and this is putting enormous strain on her heart.
Because Mandy's legs weigh in excess of 15 stone, there was therefore an increased demand on the heart. What tends to happen is that the muscle of the heart starts to burn out, if you like. It can reach a stage where the damage becomes irreversible, and at that point there's an increased risk of death.
Mandy's weight and her ever-growing lower limbs need to be constantly monitored by a dietitian.
Being weighed just gives me an indication, really, of where my weight is going, which is important, because I don't obviously want it to keep going up and up and up. If I can keep it stable or lose any, then that's kind of the main goal.
Did you notice your weight in the scales there?
No, I'm so busy concentrating on balancing.
Oh, okay. Today you were up just about 20 stone, 3.5 pounds. Can you show me? You want me to help?
Even though Mandy's on a low-fat diet, it's the abnormal fatty tissue in her legs that's growing out of control. Her torso is purely muscle. Doctors believe her legs may be starving her upper body.
So, in terms of from before, we're up by 0.4 of a kilogram.
Oh, God, again.
Okay? Her legs, they're not going to lose any weight in great amounts. You know, they might vary slightly by a couple of kilograms or a couple of pounds, but they're not going to lose any dramatic amounts of weight. But obviously on the upper half of her body, we don't want her to lose any more weight because she'd be losing muscle when she does that, because she doesn't have any fat stores in the upper half of her body.
As Mandy's legs are continuing to grow, it's essential she strengthens her upper body.
Obviously, as the weight increases, it's going to get harder and harder to actually walk.
Now that Mandy's legs are becoming so heavy that they're endangering her life, she is forced to consider a double amputation. Surgeons in the UK have recommended that Mandy should have her right leg amputated below the knee. They have also advised that amputating her left leg at the hip joint would be one option. But this would leave Mandy unable to sit up without the help of a body brace, and she would never walk again.
That would be just a ridiculous option, considering going from being able to walk to not even to be able to sit up on your own would be just silly.
Undeterred by the bleak prognosis, Mandy has researched other options for amputation in the hope that she will be able to walk following surgery to remove her legs.
What I particularly want is for them to go as far up the leg that they can to get rid of the weight, but without hindering my ability to actually sit up.
Mandy's left thigh measures 36 inches, so if surgeons removed her leg here, the stump created could be too big for a prosthetic limb to be fitted.
It's even 36.5 now.
Mandy believes the answer to her problems could lie in America.
The whole kind of culture of Americans is going to be really positive about things, and if they can do something, they will try and do it. You know, so if anybody in the world really is going to give me any kind of option to be able to walk after amputation, then hopefully it's some kind of American person.
In less than a week, she will travel to America to meet the world's leading experts in amputation and prosthetics. Wherever Mandy goes, she attracts attention, and she's acutely aware that in America, her enormous lower limbs will make her a spectacle.
Oh, I think like any woman, you like to look good, don't you? You know, so it's just a matter of, because I can't really mix and match what I wear from the waist down, I make the most of what I can by wearing what I really, really like from the waist upwards.
Mandy's really, yeah, she's really into fashion. She likes nice clothes, but she's got kind of her own kind of style. She likes to look good. Yeah, she always has to make sure her hair's all done nicely before she goes out. It's important to her that she looks nice, so that she knows even though people are looking at her, they're looking at a very smart Mandy with her hair done nicely.
Having like nice hair and looking good on the outside makes you feel good on the inside as well, and kind of gives me probably more confidence, you know, to kind of go out and face the world, I suppose. And when you constantly kind of get people staring and making comments, probably if they've never seen me before, I guess naturally people are like shocked. Looking, you know, once and maybe twice, I can understand that. It's just when they take it that little bit further that's not right.
And finally, before her trip to America, Mandy needs to pick up her new shoes. At £2,000, Mandy's hoping these handmade shoes will make walking easier.
Can I have somebody's help, please? Can't get in. Hiya.
As Mandy struggles to make it up the steps, it hits home that her mobility is now in serious jeopardy. With each leg weighing approximately 7 stone, lifting them is a huge effort, which puts a strain on her heart.
Oh. Oh. Hang on. Oh.
You should do up a lot straighter, which is nice. Yeah. But that looks, to me, okay. It'd be interesting when we get stood up on that one.
Interrupt me up. Thanks. Cheers.
Well, Mandy, how do you feel?
I feel like I'm stuck to the floor.
Mandy had hoped these shoes would immediately be easier to walk in, but they're going to take some getting used to, and she's disappointed.
I'm struggling in it for some reason.
Right.
I don't know what it is.
Is it picking it up?
I don't know.
Now, more than ever, Mandy needs her trip to America to offer her hope. Best friend Sue will be travelling with Mandy to meet experts in America, as a transatlantic flight is a major challenge for her.
Thanks, all right, thank you.
Mandy is pinning her hopes for a mobile future on this trip. But will she get the answers she's looking for? And will it be worth the immense struggle it will take just to get there?
Oh.
Mandy Sellars is about to make a journey that could determine her future. A rare and undiagnosed condition has made her legs grow to gigantic proportions. Now Mandy has decided to go to America in a search for answers. Here, she will meet world leaders in surgery and prosthetics to find out if a double amputation could help her walk again and save her life.
It is kind of like a now or never situation, really, because I guess what they tell me in America kind of will help me decide one way or another whether I go through the amputation earlier or actually I leave it until as late as possible, because I won't be able to walk after that.
Mandy's travelling with best friend Sue, as she's going to need all the help she can get. For most people, this would be a straightforward experience, but Mandy has many special considerations. On other trips she's made, her wheelchair has been broken, and without it, she's totally stranded.
Under my bum, there's lots of signs on the wheelchair saying, don't do this, don't do that, and don't pull this out, and don't pull that out, so they should know exactly what they're doing with it. Oh, hold on, I'm actually stuck, you know. There, I'm stuck on top of the... Oh. Right, that's it, that's got it.
There we go.
But the wheelchair is the least of Mandy's worries. She faces a massive battle simply to board the plane.
Oh.
Mandy can only stand for 10 minutes at a time, and it takes 15 minutes just to get onto the plane. But she has her own unique way of dealing with the strain and exhaustion.
Come on, come on. I do get quite annoyed with myself at times. I kind of mutter to myself and swear under my breath, but sometimes it's just a matter of like, it might sound a bit odd, but like a mantra. I keep saying to myself, come on, come on, come on, you can do it, that type of thing. And that just kind of spurs me on to kind of, you know, give it everything I've got, give it some welly and get my foot to where I need it to go, so.
Mandy's made the exhausting 8-hour flight to Chicago to meet surgeons and prosthetic experts. But first, she's travelling another 150 miles west to Madison, Wisconsin, to meet Gwen Goose. There are fewer than 100 people in the world diagnosed with Proteus syndrome, and Gwen is one of them. At 14, Gwen made the bold decision to have her right foot amputated.
Gwen would know how I feel because she's been through the same thing at some point. I could learn quite a lot from Gwen, just the fact that she's had amputation. You know, how does she find life easier or worse, whichever it may be, without the leg that she's had amputated. Hello.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's really good to meet you.
No, I'll shake your hand, but I don't want you to fall off.
No, it's okay.
Really good to meet you.
Yeah, really good to meet you too. Well, do you want to go inside and have a drink?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Let's
Great.
go.
Mandy wants to find out whether life without a limb is something she could even bear to think about.
Do you have any photos of yourself when you did have your leg?
Yeah. This one is a photo of my mom and my legs together. And so you can kind of see the difference in size. This is right before my amputation.
It looks very much like my right foot.
Mm-hmm.
So when you actually decided yourself to have the amputation, what was kind of like going through your mind?
I cried immediately. It was very scary to think about it. It was just the initial idea of it was scary. And then after that, I was pretty much like, yeah, I want to do it. I think, you know, I really want to do it.
So do you kind of feel that it's one of the best decisions you've made for your life, that your quality of life is maybe better now than it would have been?
Most definitely, yeah. Probably the best decision I've made. It just kind of was like sucking all the life out of me just to have it there.
You have good days and bad days. You know, when I'm having bad days and I can't walk, say, from the sitting room to the kitchen, I just think, oh, I wish I didn't have them. But then there are other days I think, well, actually, this is part of what makes me me, you know, so why should I get rid of them? You know, so it's I'm like a conflicting in two minds in my head, you know, I'm kind of fighting against myself about when to do it and if it's the right thing to do. What happened to your leg once you amputated it?
Part of it was donated, if you will, to science.
I kind of thought once I have mine off, is just put them on eBay and sell them. You know, see how much I can get for those.
Mandy's condition is much more severe than Gwen's. This means that if she decides on amputation, the outcome may be very different.
Even though for Gwen it's been a positive experience, nobody knows in reality exactly what it would be like for me. But it does give me hope, you know, that life after may not be as difficult as what I'm imagining it could be.
Now that Mandy knows it is possible to have a good quality of life after amputation, she's making the 800-mile trip to Oklahoma. Mandy's got an appointment at one of the world's biggest prosthetic companies, where Kevin Carroll, a leader and innovator in cutting-edge prosthetic technology, has agreed to assess her. Surgeons in England have told Mandy that they can operate to remove both of her legs, but she doesn't want to have an amputation without knowing whether she will ever walk again.
I have been told that I can have a false leg on my right leg, but not on the left because it would be physically too difficult to fit it and to walk with it. You know, so I'm hoping that somebody somewhere can say to me, you know, we could give this a go and see if this will work, you know, and if there's hope there, then you might as well give it a shot and see if it works.
Now, this knee, where exactly would you find the knee itself, do you think, in here?
Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know.
Mandy's hope is that Kevin Carroll will be able to design a false leg big enough and strong enough to fit the large stump she would be left with after amputation.
Right. Do you want to pull up your pant leg a little bit?
Kevin's first job is to assess the strength of Mandy's right leg.
The whole idea here, Mandy, is that there's going to be a lot of force. Let's say you have a prosthetic leg. When you stand up, so you stand in the prosthetic leg, you could imagine the force that, you know, you stand there, the force that'll come right up into it. Lift it for me. Like, golly, that's a strong leg you have there. Because you can imagine if you're standing on a prosthetic limb, it's going to have to take your weight somewhere. So there'd still be a lot of pressure up right here. So let's say you had an amputation down here, this area. What would happen is this entire limb here would be in the socket.
Yeah.
Lift it. You see, that may help you, just having this gone. And, you know, a prosthetic foot there. There's a lot to think about, you know, when we look at this stuff.
Yeah, probably me, yeah.
But that could be a big benefit to you. On that side, it really could.
I feel I may get to a point where I don't have a choice, that my health is suffering due to the weight.
Yeah.
So I have to get rid of the legs.
You know, there's no going back when you make a decision like that.
Very true.
So on this side here, what was the thoughts?
Above knee, definitely. I mean, that's my own choice as well, just because there's no point in getting rid of below the knee, because there's just too much of that.
Yeah.
Kevin's never seen a case as extreme as Mandy's. He needs to find out how the bones in her hips are positioned so that he can decide what size and shape a false limb would need to be.
Yes. Whoa.
Sorry.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Just try to relax if you can. Actually, let me show you one of those sockets. And hold it there, Michael. You can see that that's the bone again that was palpating. That's actually inside in the socket. And the whole concept here is that all of this tissue is contained.
After you've looked at me now, would you be able to fit me with 2 prosthetic limbs so that I could possibly walk in the future?
Yeah, there'd be some difficulty with the crutches and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not going to be running up and down the street.
Well,
but I think it's doable, right? I think there could be some good outcomes for you.
Even though Mandy would be left with abnormally large stumps following a double amputation, Kevin is positive that he will, in time, help her walk again.
When I see Mandy standing up on the legs that she has, I think prosthetically she should find it easier, because the prosthetics are going to be a lot lighter and, you know, mechanically in the correct position, like the knees are going to flex in the proper area, the feet are going to be proper size. I think life could very well be a lot easier. But I think in Mandy's case, there's a time to make the decision, and it looks like the time is now.
In the next heat of the 60 meters, lane 2, Kirsten.
To keep Mandy's hopes high, Kevin wants her to see what's possible after losing a limb. He's invited Mandy to an athletics meeting where many of the amputees are only able to take part because of the artificial limbs he's designed for them. Each prosthetic solution is tailor-made to suit the individual's circumstances.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'll hop down here on my knees if you don't mind. I'm not going to be able to stand if I don't. So what do you think of all this?
Very inspiring, definitely. You know, it's amazing. People just don't let challenges stop them. You know, just get on with life, don't they? It's amazing. Do you mind me asking how come you actually got no legs now?
Absolutely, yeah. I got hurt over in Iraq.
Okay.
I was at the Army.
Right.
And I got hit by a rocket-propelled grenade, and both legs got amputated above the knees. So it was okay right up until the first time that I got prosthetics on.
Right.
and then it hit me pretty hard.
How long did it take to actually walk then?
I spent two and a half years in a wheelchair, and that is not necessarily the standard. It's just what happened with me. I struggled finding the right combination of leg and socket and prosthetist.
So it gives you kind of a new lease of life in a way.
Absolutely.
As an innovator and expert in prosthetics, Kevin's enthusiasm is encouraging.
He seems, extremely positive where other people may see black and white. He sees the grey areas, and he's willing to kind of try something and maybe give it a go and see if I can actually wear a prosthetic limb, which, you need someone like that on your side who's willing to kind of try and overcome a challenge that maybe he's never come across before.
Mandy's next appointment is with surgeon William Ertle. He comes from a family who have pioneered new amputation techniques. Mandy's chances of walking, once she's had her legs removed, lie in Dr. Ertle's hands.
How big of a request is it for me to see you to try to stand and maybe walk or maybe get into the hallway? Is that too big of a request? Wow. So you can't really go very far and you don't go very fast.
True.
Let's take a quick look at your legs. Let me just try to hold it. That's very heavy.
Do you want me to help you just say?
Okay.
If Dr. Ertle is going to amputate, he needs to know exactly where and how Mandy's legs have grown. Mandy's left leg poses the greatest problem. Surgeons in England think one option is to remove the leg at the hip joint, but this would mean Mandy would need a body brace to be able to sit, and she would never walk. She wants surgeons to remove the leg just above the knee, but this will leave her with an enormous stump. Kevin Carroll believes he can design a false leg to accommodate this. But does Dr. Ertle think amputation is possible?
So what do we do? Amputation will reduce the volume of your limb. Amputation will, I think especially for the left leg, comes at the potential cost of wound infection, blood clots, and potentially DVT, and pulmonary embolus, and death. And the fact that even if it's done successfully, with the size of this limb, I wouldn't guarantee that you get into prosthesis. That's kind of a hard pill to hear. It's hard words to hear. You're a strong-willed person to go this far. And I wouldn't give up that motivation and that strength. As the physician now sitting over here, it's be a challenge.
This devastating news isn't what Mandy travelled thousands of miles to hear.
To some respects, I kind of knew some of the answers I was going to be given, but in the back of my mind, there's always that little bit of hope that something's going to go the way I want it to.
There's no guarantee that following amputation, Mandy would be able to walk using prosthetic limbs, and there's a risk that surgery might kill her. So Mandy's made the difficult decision not to have her legs amputated until absolutely necessary.
Why get rid of legs that still do work? Limited, yes, they are, but I can still walk. I won't get rid of what I've got until they're completely useless.
She's leaving America without the answers she's been looking for. But back home, she's about to be offered a glimmer of hope. Amazingly, at the age of 33, Mandy Sellars' massive lower limbs are still growing, and doctors don't know why. It's getting harder to walk, and her huge legs are putting strain on her heart. Amputation seemed like the only option, but doctors warned that the surgery could kill her. So Mandy made the tough decision to keep her legs until she has no choice but to have them surgically removed.
at times they can be pretty useless, these things, but they're me, they're part of me. And really, do I want to get rid of part of me until I absolutely have to? No, I don't. It's partly what makes Mandy Mandy.
Because Mandy's legs are staying, it's more important than ever that she gets a definite diagnosis, so that surgeons will understand her condition when she does decide to have her lower limbs amputated. Doctors have linked Mandy's overgrowth to Proteus syndrome, a condition which most famously affected the elephant man. Today is a turning point for Mandy, as a leading genetics expert is investigating her unique condition. Dr. Sue Hewson, a consultant in clinical genetics at St Mary's Hospital in Manchester, has asked Mandy to meet her for a consultation.
It feels good. I'm really kind of positive and I wouldn't say hopeful, but just pleased, really, really pleased that someone is actually taking the time to kind of look into something and just to kind of help me. It's like I'm being noticed at long last. I'm not being left or pushed by the wayside to get on with my life.
I know you've been examined thoroughly in the past, so can I just look at your arms? Maybe if you just put... You just don't have an ounce of fat, do you?
No, not a lot at all.
And that's the same all over the top. Right, OK. What I'm looking at is the skin is perfectly smooth and normal, yeah? That's important for me is to look under your foot. How's the best way to manage that?
I'll just lift it up and you pull my foot up.
So again, you see, that's beautifully smooth and most of it. And that's, again, I think, a big change from what we'd call the classical Proteus. I can probably tell you how it would have started, because has anybody mentioned mosaicism to you before? Have you heard that?
All humans start life as a single cell. To develop, that cell divides into 2, then 4, then 8, and so on. Each time the cell divides, the genes inside copy themselves. People who are genetic mosaics start with a cell containing normal genes, but when the cells divide and copy, a mistake occurs. Faulty cells, seen here in white, copy and divide at the same rate as the normal cells. The result is a mixture of normal and abnormal cells, known as mosaicism. Dr. Hewson thinks that Mandy is a genetic mosaic, and this explains why her upper body is so small, and yet her legs are so incredibly large.
So we may end up saying nobody's ever seen another Mandy. And that may be because it's a unique form of mosaicism.
Yeah.
I think there's a real possibility that when we've exhausted all the things that we can do over the next year, we could then be saying it's Mandy syndrome.
It'd be fantastic in a kind of a weird way if I had something that nobody else has ever had. You know, to have a syndrome in some sense named after me that is here, you know, way, way after I'm dead, that would be kind of cool. It really would.
Mandy now knows that she is unique, but whilst amputation still remains a very real possibility, Mandy is determined to make the most of her life.
Hopefully the future for Mandy will be a good future, positive future, a mobile future, and she'll just hopefully continue to enjoy her life as she does now.
I think that Mandy could achieve a fair amount in her life, like, really, because whatever she sets her mind to, Mandy will do.
It might sound a bit odd to say, but maybe, you know, I have to start kind of celebrating the fact that I have these legs while I have them. Because maybe in 4 years' time, something like that, I may not have them. You know, so it's kind of like just being happy with who I am.